What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Spencer, and I haven't done this in I think 2 months now. So I thought I'd kick off the new year, even though we're 6 days in. But it's still the beginning, right? With the meta tier list. Now, these are usually my most controversial videos for sure. I don't really mean for them to be, and like I've said in my other ones, like I've only been playing Yu-Gi-Oh for like a year and a half now, so I'm still learning the game as it comes along here. But the format has obviously changed quite a bit now that Drytron's out and the ban list. I haven't made a tier list since the ban lists, so I'll go through each of these. And some of these I'm less familiar with the others, and I'll definitely admit that when I get a chance. Um, but is this a good format we're in right now? It's okay. I mean, it kind of depends. Like, do you prefer a format to have the three best decks and everything else, or do you guys want to? Do you guys like it more diversified? Uh, I think if you get rid of some of the really big problem cards like VFT, I think the format will really start to shape itself out. I don't. It survived a ban list simply because of selling product for Virtual World. That's perfectly okay. I can accept that. But once the next one comes around, we'll see. How things kind of move from there. But we'll start off with Burning Abyss, man. Like honestly, I don't. I know Seer and Graph came off the ban list, but if this is rogue, if this is tier 3 or tier 2, man, I don't know. I just haven't seen enough of it. So really, I almost just want to keep this off the list. But for now, the top of my head, probably the sacrifice of a few dislikes. I'll put it in rogue tier. No need to mess around here. Virtual World, man. Fighting it through Nibiru, it puts up BFD, and I don't know a lot of decks that can beat that at all. I mean, it is at the top of its game, and it will be in the top. I mean, and that first tier list that I did, I think I'd put it in like tier 1.5 or something, just because it wasn't very well defined at that point. But now everyone knows exactly how to play the deck, and then people are also synchro summoning up, like I showed in that combo tutorial, to regain the advantage back to do another VFD the next turn if they have to, if their opponent somehow has the one out for it, which is just crazy. Virtual World is at the top of its game. When VFT gets banned, we'll have another discussion about that. It might just be dead, but we'll see. Because I know people are going to get creative with it, and just the fact that a deck can summon rank 9 sixes, XYZ summon, I think it'll be able to become something. I just don't know what that is just quite yet. Infernoble Knights, man, it still has Ice Sold, so it's still going to have some combos. The consistency, I think, is going to be hit a little bit here. I'm close to putting this in tier 3, and I may just do it now. Just when you have access to such powerful cards that are ban worthy, that just haven't been banned yet, we'll see how they do it. The combos will have to be restructured, obviously, but I think it's another just maybe a couple of cards coming out from being good again. I don't know. It's just people aren't playing it, so when people get interested in it again for whatever reason, we'll see if it can move its way back up. It will never. I don't think it'll be tier 1. Although I know there are some versions of the deck that can make VFD, although I also don't know if that needed Link Ross and if there's ways to get around it. The dedicated Infernoble Knight players will figure that out for sure. This is Guru, and I'm going to assume it's Guru Numeron. It's one of those things that it's if more people played it, I think we would see a little more representation. Although, I mean, there are a few weak points for sure. I mean, putting up Zexal, and I think you can even set Guru during that turn as well. I mean, it's just such a good going first deck, but going second, I'm not sure what it's going to be able to do. And that's the problem you'll find with a lot of these decks is, like, you need to be able to do both in this format because you can't just depend on winning the dice roll necessarily. So that's where it's going to fit for now, but I do like it. It's definitely above casual. It's going to, if you take this to your locals, or you're going to get a few wins, out of it. Madolche, I always seem to have troubles against Madolche, but it just sees no representation at all for the most part. I mean, casual strategies I'm defining as like Dark Magician and stuff like that. So it's going to be way above that. The potential is way higher. It's just one of those decks, again, that I think really struggles going second or going first. It just gains so much advantage. It's the best deck that does advantage. It just, people seem to find ways to break it, especially when they start playing meta. I'm not even going to do Zephyr. I know nothing about it. It's like a pendulum deck. I know Triff Gaming probably has like 50 videos about how it's the best deck in Yu-Gi-Oh! But for now, that's where we'll keep it, right? This is Shadal's. Pure Shadal's again. I just don't see anything out of it that warrants it. Going first, I mean, you gotta hope you open Polymerization or that field spell that lets you discard and grab Polymerization. Going second, you're also depending on your opponent going into the extra deck for the most part. Now I know the purist Shadal players will kind of find ways around it, but for the most part, it feels very weak. Yeah, I mean, Invoke Shadals, you might want to put up to tier 3, but if we're talking pure, it's in the rogue tier for me. It's just too dependent on your opponent, unfortunately. Dinos are still in tier 2. It's still such a good deck, but the problem is it just has horrible matchups against the meta right now, and there's just nothing it can do about that. It still has access to Miscellaneous Saurus, Ultimate Conductor Tyranno. We know how good that card is, but the funniest thing is the downfall of this is a card within its own archetype VFD, which Dinos very, very rarely make unless they're their combo variants, which just aren't consistent enough to do anything at all. Up next is Buster Blader. It saw some representation in the beginning, and I think literally it hasn't because it's just, again, these tier 1 really separate themselves out, man. It's just because of those big problem cards, of course. So Buster Blader for me is going to stick in tier 2, and if more people played it, I think, again, it would see a lot of representation. And when VFD gets banned, this is another card that you could see possibly move itself up to tier 1 because of how good that lock truly is. I'm not going to go for Thunder Dragon again. That's just one of those decks that Chaos Thunder, we saw it for a little bit, and now people just aren't playing it anymore. And a lot of these these lower decks are hard to judge because there's no paper Yu-Gi-Oh right now, so there's less game tape to go for. And in these limited tournaments that we do have, people are going to try to bring what gives them the best chance. You guys know how I feel about ABC Cyber Dragons. I'm going to keep that in Rogue tier. I've talked about this at length. You guys can check out my videos, and I'll probably do another one too, like an update. Kind of like a siding tutorial video too. I've thought about doing that because I've kind of figured that out. But yeah, that's where I'm going to put ABC Cyber Dragon. Ultrageist, again, one of those just uber awesome going first decks, although Harpies came off the ban list. We all know about Lightning Storm, Twin Twister, Cosmic Cyclone. Not a format for Ultrageist at all. It's not casual. Again, it's going to always be better than something like Dark Magician, but still, it's not going to do anything with the way the current format is sitting. Invoke stuff. Yeah, I mean, I do not see Invoked in Top Cut nearly at all in the limited tournaments that I have seen, so this is a deck that could go to tier 1 once Virtual World kind of steps its way down, although still, when VFD gets banned, there's a certain deck that I'm sure you guys all know, and I'll talk about in just a moment, that's going to take that big step forward and probably just be tier 1 by itself. And it sucks for me because as an ABC Cyber Dragon, that deck is going to ban a bunch of cards that are mutual between us, but yep. This is Prank Kids, I'm assuming. I think this is Battle Butler's card art. It's kind of jumbled and hard to see, but I think this is the point of contention that people just don't like so much. It's a good deck against time. It just does not make top 16 ever from what I've seen, and nor have I seen anything that overly impresses me. There's too many cards that can just kind of take care of it. Until I see some results and I'm impressed. Until the normal summon go into the Link 1 doesn't get gammaed and ends your turn, then I will start feeling a different way about Prank Kids. I understand the potential of them, but still, I mean, like very few hands don't lose in a Biru and stuff like that too. But if you guys are interested in seeing what Prank Kids do, I did do a very basic combo tutorial for it. So you guys can check it out if you want. Zodiac, for sure. And I'm going to go ahead and put Eldritch up there too. I'm just going to talk about these together. I had Eldritch in tier 2 in November. And I said that's because the decks weren't nearly as defined. I don't think people knew the right ratios. And I think that's getting kind of figured out now. It's definitely making top cut all the time now. It's not like fringe top cut. It's like there's a few decks you'll see up there. And I do think the best version of Eldritch is the Zodiac one. And I think the best version of Zodiac is the Eldritch version. They work well together. They're very powerful, going first and second. So, yeah, I mean, I think this is what's kind of going on in the meta right now. It's these two decks and one more that sets itself from the other, and everyone else is kind of just looking down, looking up at them. Mystic Mind Burn, it's actually pretty good, and I think with cards like VFT walking around, it does not care about it. So literally, it's just because nobody plays the deck that it's not going to be higher on the list. I don't know if it can make top cut. I'm not going to say it can, but it's a good deck, and it's just not played because everyone hates it. Dragon Maids, yeah, it's tier 3, but it's more like 2.5. This is like meta in the OCG apparently. I don't know if it's because we have different card pools or if people just aren't like hip to it yet, but I've seen it do some very impressive thing. I've seen in some like random YouTube Cup, whatever events you want to call them, Dragon Mage does make its way to the top with some of the most skilled players. So this is the deck I'm going to keep my eye on the most. This is kind of going to be my version of Eldritch from the November tier list to see, if people can optimize the deck and, everything else that it can do going from there. This is Sky Strikers. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I like its ability to go first and second to a certain extent. I mean, you're going to set up Disruption for the most part. Prefers to go second. I like my Numeron build, but I don't even think that's being used at all anymore, which is fine, of course. We'll see. I mean, this is always going to be a popular deck, so it's always going to be around, but it's not going to make top cut anytime soon, not until Engage comes back to at least one. When it does that, we can revisit the deck and have the conversation, but for now I think it's okay. Although, I'm just going to put it in Rogue. I mean, it really is just sees no representation at all. I feel like it'd be wrong to do that. Adamantipator's is one of those decks that just feels like a silent deck. I mean, it's in a better place than Infernoble Knights, in my opinion, to a certain extent. It's one of those things that can just spam the field like crazy. It's almost like Spirals, but it's not able to keep advantage. The more any kind of support that comes out, like general support, is going to be to this card's advantage, to this deck's advantage. It's just not going to be able to, because if the board gets breaking, you lose the game, period. That's what it comes down to. This is the new Evil Twin archetype, and this will be kind of the second deck that I'm going to be looking at for maybe the February one to see what kind of decks are coming out. I mean, I've seen Zoo Eldritch, or I've seen Eldritch Evil Twin. I've seen Evil Eye Evil Twin. I don't know what the best one is necessarily. I've personally beaten all of them, but I have lost to them a few times too, of course. And it's able to just pop you during your turn constantly. Like I said, I believe it's very similar to the Zoo of Link monsters. It's kind of that kind of take on it. I like it. It's just right now it's a little underwhelming, and I think there'll be a partnership that no one's using yet that will end up being the most popular and may help it kind of move up in the rankings here. This is the new Mutant archetype. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, this is one that's so brand new, and when we get more regular Yu-Gi-Oh back, there'll be more casual players interested, because there was a little bit of hype around this deck, and it could be just a few support cards off from really taking that next leap forward. So this is one that could certainly kind of make its way up to tier 2 if the right cards come out. Next one to come out is Dragon Link, and this is another deck that I think is just not being played. It's another deck that I think the fact that still Pisty and Elpy are out there, you can grab any dragon from the deck. It's going to be able to do a lot of things, and I think it just silently tops in a lot of places that are now playing Yu-Gi-Oh again. We'll have to see what the new route trees look like. I think it's a little more vulnerable to Nibiru, but still, if there's any kind of archetype that can basically change itself to do anything, it's going to be Dragon Link. There's so much dragon support out there that it's almost impossible for them not to figure something out, unless they were just to ban all of the Dragon Link monsters, basically. It's still a tier 2 in my mind for sure. Drytron, yeah, I mean, I just talked about this. It's going to get Cyber Emergency banned. It's probably going to get, hopefully it doesn't get Union Carrier banned. That would be the biggest bummer of all time. And a slew of other cards are just on this list. Vanity's Ruler, Lord knows if that could get banned. I'm not sure. But it's kind of just Drytron and Virtual World, and Zodiac Eldritch hopes that it kind of wins the dice roll for the most part, or maybe even going second. I'm not sure just yet, but it's so hard to beat these boards, man, with such powerful cards going around the format. It's kind of crazy to see Vanity's Ruler be meta. It's been, I don't know, not since I've been playing has it been, but it's just such a good card, and the fact that they can just search it and just end your turn and be like, good luck, hopefully you can break this, and most of the time, of course, you just can't. I'm not going to talk about this. Unchained has one of the most dedicated player bases. I'm not going to talk about that either. I'm just going to put this kind of, this is just kind of general Pendulum. As long as VFD's in the format, there's no way Pendulums are going to be able to do anything. Now, will you be able to make a huge board going first? Of course you will. Pendulum has always been able to do that. Even through any Electromite ban or anything like that, they've just pushed through. They can put up 16 negates always. The problem is just going second. You got to be able to activate monster effects. And there's a lot of spell and trap. I mean, yeah, it's just not that good right now. I think it will find its time in the light again. There's a new Pendulum archetype coming out, so we'll see what that comes through. Konami obviously has not touched Pendulums in a very long time. So we'll see what their new take is on it, I suppose. This is Marincess. I've never had any troubles against Marincess, to be honest with you. Doesn't really have anything in the way of disruption outside of a few trap cards, but they have to draw them. Or I think there's one monster that searches, but it's just never been impressive to me. That's just how I feel about it. Salmon Greats for sure are still tier 3. Going first, they set up a ton of disruption. The deck has a ton of room for hand traps. So it's really just that modern take, that kind of mid-range deck that everybody knows and loves. And that's just what it kind of comes down to. It's always going to be around, so it's always something you have to think about. Because if you just take it too lightly, it'll definitely dominate you and crush you going first. I think it's just a little bricky. I don't think it's as consistent as it used to be. Obviously, because like a ton of its cards are on the ban list. Because that's just how good the deck has been, right? But yeah, that's a really long look at the meta tier list. I may try to condense this next time, especially because I'm not as familiar with a ton of these archetypes. That's just kind of my general opinion as I've been playing, as I've been watching tournaments. But let me know what you guys think about this meta tier list. Where would you change things? I'm sure some of you have a few different opinions on some of these, but I like to hear it, man. I mean, that's what it's all about on YouTube, right? The best part about this channel is interacting with you guys. But anyways, that's going to do it for today's video. And that, I hope you have an absolutely wonderful day, and I'll see you next time.